show you my toys.
Hey everybody, this is D Hunter bringing another action figure review. Today we're going to look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Ronin action figure. Now I must confess, I'm more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, and my point to that is I don't know who Ronin is, but when I saw this guy, he looked like a great ninja-esque action figure. He is going to make a great League of Shadows or League of Assassins member. So I did end up going ahead and getting more than one of this guy for that purpose. So I did go ahead and get 6 of these guys. I got mine from Amazon.com. Amazon had this annoying limit of 3 per customer. I was able to get one of them damaged for a discount on top of that. And then after about 2 weeks, it let me get a couple more. Alright, let's take a quick look at the packaging here. As you can see at the top, Build-A-Figure Thanos, Avengers logo at the top, Legends series, Marvel's Avengers. This is an Avengers wave because you do collect Thanos, Ronin, Hasbro. Of course, we got the actual figure in here. He's a ninja outfit. He's got 2 swords, an alternate hand with throwing stars. Great weapon for a ninja. On the side here he is, posed up with a sword. Exact same thing on the other side. On the bottom, we've got a barcode as well as a bunch of credits. And on the back side here, you can see here's the guy posed up, and you can see the figure you get, Thanos, if you buy the entire wave. You can see the rest of the wave here. Now I personally don't have any need for the rest of the figures except for I did get 3 Hercules. I'm using them as Maxi Zeus thugs in my Batman world. They go nicely with the old school one they released many years ago. Alright, well now the other figures out of the package. Here they are with all their accessories laid out. They come with a piece of Thanos, his left arm, an alternate hand with some throwing stars, 2 different swords, and a removable hood. Pretty cool. But before we check out the accessories, let's look at the actual figure. As you can see here, this guy is Ronin as a ninja. From things I've read, I believe it's Hawkeye perhaps under this costume. Maybe infiltrating a group of ninjas, but I really don't know. This review I will be doing from the point of view of using this figure as a Ra's al Ghul League of Shadows member in my Batman world. So you can see a ninja mask. Only can see his eyes. Gold trim around there. He does have the removable hood. This is how he's intended to look. Looks pretty cool. Gold trim around there as well. He's got this sheath attached to his back. It is removable. You can see if you desire to, you could pull it off. Got sort of a jacket, a little bit of shoulder pads or armor up here, on top of something underneath. Some sort of little gauntlets on his wrists. Shin guards. Overall, a pretty cool, generic looking ninja for my purposes. Instant League of Shadows army for about $100 right here. Next, let's check out this guy's accessories. He has a Thanos arm, 2 swords, a hood, and an alternate hand with throwing stars attached, which is a pretty cool concept, but I personally would have really preferred to have the throwing stars separate. So let's check out Thanos arm real quick. Nothing special about this. This means nothing to me. Don't get me wrong, Thanos is cool. I would love to have a Thanos, but I'm not going to complete this figure. I actually have 3 of another part of him as well from the Zeus figure I purchased. Anyway, he can move fine, whatever. I'm going to put these on eBay because what else am I going to do with these guys? You never know. Maybe someone would buy it for $8 or so and whatever. So next we've got his hood here. It's made of a softer material, movable. I must say it falls off his head very easily, which is pretty annoying. They could have executed that better. So here he is with his hood off. You can see his eyes through there. Paint job is actually pretty good on this guy. And then here he is with his hood on. I do very much so like a feature like that, but honestly I think I would have rather it be permanently attached as it comes off so easily. Should have had some way to clip in or something. It's just you pretty much dump them upside down, it'll fall right off. Next, let's look at his alternate hand with throwing stars. Like I said before, I definitely would prefer them separate. Honestly, I might just cut them off, because as they are now, this hand is probably just going to go into a huge bin of extra hands and parts, never to use again. It just feels like quite a waste. I could cut them off and keep those in my League of Shadow arsenal. 3 separate throwing stars that could probably fit in his hand. But hand looks decent. Gold in the bottom. Now when switching the hand, it was quite easy. Came out smooth, stays in securely. Really almost never have problems with Hasbro figures on swappable parts. Here he is getting ready to throw the stars. Looking pretty cool. You could also probably have him like he just released them toward you. Overall pretty cool. This hand does have a hinge, so it has some articulation in itself. Next, let's check out his swords. One thing that is kind of cool, they didn't use the exact same sword. As you can see, one is considerably longer than the other one. Didn't just print to the same mold. On the actual sword itself, has some actual detail, some sculpting on it, some lines. Pretty cool. And then the handle here also has quite a bit of detail in it. They could easily just skipped up on that, but they didn't. Pretty cool. And then he has this sheath on his back, and it is able to accommodate either the small or larger sword. As you can see, here's a smaller sword. You can put it inside. Fits in there. Sticks out a little bit at the bottom. And you can also take the longer sword, stick it in there, and it sticks out a little more at the bottom. Do think it's pretty cool. I don't like the fact that it sticks out. That's kind of impractical. But I like that it can accommodate both swords. And then here he is holding both swords as a fictional comic ninja would do. And then here they all are with both their swords out, ready for some action. Now, army building is my specialty. These guys are going to be great added to my League of Shadows. And then here they are taking on a Mafex Batman Begins Batman. Pretty comparable size to the Marvel Legends figures. Now that we've taken a very detailed look at his accessories, next let's check out the height of this figure. This is a Hasbro Marvel Legends figure. They're the 6-inch scale, a little on the smaller end of things, smaller than DC vs. Classics. Usually running at about 6 1/4 inches tall. So this guy here, if you take him from bottom to the top, if you include his hood, is just about 6 1/2 inches, which is a little bit larger for Marvel Legends. Pretty cool. Take the hood off, more like 6.25. The hood's going to allow him to fit in with the rest of my collection just a tiny bit better. Next, let's check out this guy's articulation. Let's start with his head here. Of course, his head, it can go around. You can kind of tilt a little bit from side to side. Look down about that far and up about that far. Not too much there. It's on a ball joint. He's got shoulders, also on a ball joint. You can hear him clicking into each different little segment. It goes a little bit more than 90 degrees, which is pretty cool. He's got a bicep cut. Double jointed elbows. Go all the way up there. Touch back his head, scratch his ear, cover of his mouth, etc. His wrist is hinged and swiveled. Does have an ab crunch under there, but I really couldn't tell you any more details than that as we cannot see it. He's got a waist swivel. Legs go out that far, not 90 degrees. And it doesn't feel like they're blocked from this. It just feels like that's as far as they're going to go. Forward about that far. Back, really not at all. He's got a thigh cut here. Double joint knees. All the way back. And his foot's going to be able to go down, up, no toe articulation, and they've got rockers, and they can also go around while rocking at the same time. Next, let's check out these guys compared to some other action figures, and I'll also show you what I'm planning to do with them in my collection. So like I said before, I predominantly bought these guys to use as Ra's al Ghul, League of Shadows, or League of Assassins members. So let me tell you a little bit about army building Ra's al Ghul. I've been collecting Batman figures for a very long time, way back in the day, there weren't a lot of options for army building Ra's al Ghul thugs. So this was the original 5-inch Kenner Ra's al Ghul they made for Batman the Animated Series. And like I said before, there weren't a lot of options for army building. When they finally released a suited Ra's al Ghul, I decided to buy several of these Ra's al Ghuls and put the mask on them so you couldn't tell who they were and act like they were just members of the Demon's Head. And that led me to be able to have Ra's al Ghul and a small League of Shadows army for him. Unfortunately, it's just the 5-inch scale, and as collecting matured, companies went on to 6 and 7-inch scale, making these obsolete. And the smaller 5-inch Ra's al Ghuls were out when I was a kid, and I was able to acquire them as an adult for extremely cheap. Years down the road, started to get DC Direct and 6 and 7-inch figures. I saw this Mask of Tengu Batman from Nightfall by DC Direct, and I thought to myself, that might work for a couple of Ra's al Ghul type ninjas. Bruce Wayne, after he was crippled when he was recovering, trained with Lady Shiva wearing this outfit so she didn't exactly know who he was, and she's with League of Shadows. I don't know, kind of made sense in my head. So I bought a few of these guys for that purpose. Bear in mind, there were little to no options at that day. A few years later, DC Direct made this Man-Bat figure from Son of Batman comic line. This is actually not Kirk Langstrom. In the comic, Ra's al Ghul made an army of ninja Man-Bats by using Kirk Langstrom's mutagen. But that just wasn't enough for me. Those were substitutions, etc., etc. I wanted some actual League of Shadows members. So these guys here were inspired by Batman the Animated Series, where they were referred to as the Society of Shadows. On the two edges here, we've got generic Society of Shadows ninjas. And in the center here, we've got Vertigo. In the animated series, he actually worked for Ra's al Ghul and was in the introductory episode to the League of Shadows. I even made his sonic drill to go with him as well. But unfortunately, these were custom figures, and you can't really play and display and pose them as much as you'd like to. Paint will chip off, etc., etc. I've had these guys for probably over 10 years at this point. And then a couple years later, Mattel made these Movie Master figures based off the Nolan trilogy. So I caught these survival suit Bruce Wayne figures, and I thought, hey, you know what? These guys could make some good ninjas. So I bought a bunch of them to use as League of Shadows members from Batman Begins, that sort of style. Ended up getting a couple more survival suit Bruce Waynes and customized them into slightly better versions of League of Shadows members. Army building continues. And then a little while later, I remember discovering these guys. These are from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the movie figures. 7-inch scale. You can see they're taller than the Hasbro Marvel Legends figures. I discovered these around the time the game Arkham City was out. They weren't new at the time. They'd been out for a while, and I was unaware of them. And honestly, I was able to get them for surprisingly cheap. Each one of these made a good member of Talia's Elite Guard. This figure also came with one of each of the Asian sort of doorway diorama pieces in the background. So it was a huge win for me. A great figure that would complement my Batman collection, Talia's Elite Guard, as well as some cool diorama pieces for my Society of Shadows, etc. And when DC Direct solicited this figure, the Dark Archer from the Arrow TV show, it sure caught my eye, and I thought, that looks kind of cool. That could be a good Ra's al Ghul League of Shadows member. I'd never actually seen Arrow. Eventually, I bought this figure with the intent to make some League of Shadows members, and then I ended up watching Arrow because I bought this figure. I found out that Dark Archer's Merlin, the same person, and in Season 2 of Arrow, it sure revealed that he was from the League of Shadows, and there were tons of people wearing the same costume. So without knowing it, I bought several of these guys for League of Shadows members, not knowing they actually were League of Shadows members. Pretty cool. So I ended up buying 5 of these guys, and boy was I so happy to finally get the League of Shadows member I've been wanting for many, many years. These guys' articulation is fantastic. Sure, it's hindered a little bit by their sculpt and attire, but boy, this is great. An actual legitimate League of Shadows member action figure that you can army build. I never used this as Merlin once I got a bunch of these, and they made an unmasked Merlin later to use for that purpose. Fantastic DC Direct. And then a little while later, they made this figure. This was Malcolm Merlin with his mask and hood off. And I thought to myself, oh cool, I can get Malcolm Merlin and use him as Malcolm Merlin with my Ra's al Ghul gang. He'd be the leader of these guys. And after I got him, I thought, you know what? I can do some more army building with this guy. And so I decided to buy many more of these to put some different unmasked heads on, kind of like some League of Shadows ninjas that are at the base, off-duty, training, etc., etc. Then I ended up taking some of the older figures here, and this is my favorite kind. Check out his head. You can move the hood back and see he's got a ninja mask under there. A great detail that I feel like they didn't have to do, but it's fantastic. So I decided I could get some unmasked guys, and then I could head swap some of these ninja masks off these guys, and I could have some racial guys that are regular with hood and mask on, some that are going to be unmasked like him, and some I could put the masked head on top of these guys so they'd have their hood down and have a ninja mask on. And then I didn't want any of the completely unmasked generic thug versions, so I ended up having 5 of them with masks off and hoods on, 5 of them with masks on and hoods off, and then 5 of them with masks on and hoods on, as well as Malcolm Merlin to lead that group. 16 different Malcolm Merlin figures, making a pretty large League of Shadows. And eventually Soap Studios made these 1/12 soft cloth good figures of Ra's al Ghul. If you bought the deluxe edition, it came with the Ra's al Ghul ninja head. So effectively I've got a Ra's al Ghul and a League of Shadows member here. Far too expensive to army build these guys, but fun to add them with the rest of my League of Shadows gang. And then Mafex went and made a Ra's al Ghul figure. It came with an alternate League of Shadows masked head, which is intended for still being Ra's al Ghul. But I decided to purchase a whole bunch of these guys and make an absolutely awesome movie-accurate Batman Begins League of Shadows army. Definitely my favorite one to date. This Ronin figure is pretty nice as well, but the Mafex one definitely takes the cake as my #1 League of Shadows ninja. And then here they are next to my favorite Ra's al Ghul Talia and a lot of the Ra's al Ghul family. From left to right, we've got, this is a Marvel Legends Elektra that I'm using for Nissa al Ghul, Talia's sister. Then of course we have the Marvel Legends Ronin. Then we've got a custom Ubu. Then we've got a custom Ra's al Ghul. Then we've got a custom Talia. Then of course the Marvel Legends Ronin. Then we've got a Mortal Kombat figure that I use for the Sensei. And then here they are next to all the different Ra's al Ghuls I have in my collection. These are both 5, 6, and 7-inch figures. So I decided to take out and display all of my League of Shadows guys together. As you can see here, here are those doorways. In the background we've got a Gargoyles castle, as well as the He-Man Master of the Universe Castle Grayskull, the Matty Collector exclusive for 6-inch figures. Here we've got those Mafex guys, the Ronin guys. You can see all the Arrow guys, the Survival Suit guys, and then Ra's al Ghul and his family up there. And then here's my Ra's al Ghul base as its home in Gotham City. You can see the doorways there leading to Castle Grayskull in here, the Gargoyles Castle here, shelf behind it. We've got those Japanese entryways, and then back here we've got a throne as well as his Lazarus pit. You can fill the thing up with water and use it as needed. Does take up a lot of space. Plan to probably do something different with it in the near future. Background pieces courtesy of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon figures, these 4 Asian entryways. As well as in the back, we've got, these are actually all by Mezco. On the 2 sides, we've got the Frankenstein doorway, and in the center is from an older Mezco line called Silent Screamers. The figure was Gollum, a very large, oversized figure. Both these things were sort of reminiscent of Castle or League of Shadows. I remember very large doorways in the Arkham City game. Kind of had that sort of vibe to it, in my opinion. So overall, I must say it's a pretty solid figure. Nothing earth-shattering as far as Marvel Legends go. Marvel Legends always has great articulation, and so do these guys. Their height is on the smaller end of 6, 7-inch figures. Ever so slightly smaller than DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures, but fits in pretty good with the majority of my collection. If I were to give this figure a rating, I'd give it a good 7.5 out of 10. It makes it great for some army building, and it's a pretty good figure overall. I'm not familiar with the source material, so that's saying a lot coming from me. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add it in the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.